Whilst waiting for the commentary team to be ready, just a quick mention for Manchester City. The turnaround this season, Robbo, has been truly something to behold. From being almost in the bottom half of the table to finishing as champions is a heck of an achievement.
I think you look at where they were last season, that far behind Liverpool. At this point last season, we were saying, how do you close the gap on Liverpool? They won the league at such a canter and so well. And that's the biggest credit you've got to pay to Manchester City, because we were all sat scratching our heads just to say, if Liverpool do this again, who's going to challenge them next year? Who's going to get near Liverpool? And City have done that, and they've finished above them. And the way that they've done it, I think that Ruben Dias has been a huge part of that, putting him into that back four alongside John Stones, who's shoring up the back four. Scoring goals and creating chances has never been City's problem. It's always been leaking goals and losing games that they shouldn't, and they haven't done that this year. And I think, like I say, the gap between them and Liverpool last year has been closed, and it's up to now. They've laid down the gauntlet for the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United to say catch us next year. And if they secure the signing of Harry Kane, which I know we'll talk about later, if they get Haaland, they've got to replace Aguero somehow. If City go again, what are the rest going to do?
Yeah. Just also on Pep Guardiola, Murph, it wasn't too long ago, the start of the season, we were saying, oh, he's done at City. He couldn't hold on to the title last year. He's struggling this year. Then he signed a new contract, and it all changed almost overnight.
Well, he's got great belief in what he does, hasn't he? And the players continually play for him and raise the game for him. So that's why he's always been talked about as one of the best coaches, because he gets more out of great players. I do think the team reinvented itself a little bit this season in terms of becoming much harder to beat, a bit more pragmatic at times. They weren't rolling teams over 4 and 5, especially in the first half of the season. So he does deserve great credit. And I was somebody who thought that, it's looking on his history, that he might just walk away. That might just be it for him. But maybe that desire to win the Champions League, maybe that desire to grab the title back from Liverpool, or that ambition has drove him on. And I certainly now think they've got the makings of a team and a squad that looks to be, set for a good few years. When you think of the ages of Foden and Diaz, and even when you look at people like Mahrez and De Bruyne, who are a bit more experienced, they're still in the 20s. So it's a wonderful few years ahead, I think, for City. I don't see a capitulation like last year happening again. Don't see it.
JMO?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Of course, the position in the league will influence the performances, the changes of lineups. But City have finished the season on 86 points, if I'm not mistaken. Last season was 81 points, so it's a 5-point difference. It's not a massive improvement statistically. But like Danny was saying there, the fact that Pep has been able to manage the season so well. The lack of Aguero, the call for a striker, the call for Haaland or whatever, but then finding goals in Gundogan, as we said before, Foden coming to prominence, Mahrez when he was needed, and being able to keep that side together. And it's interesting what you said there, Adam, about the contract, because I remember the day that he signed the contract, City didn't win. And it was almost like everyone expected that day to be the turnaround, but soon after they went on a run. Even last season, they went on a long unbeaten or winning streak. So, they've always had that capability under Pep. But as Danny rightly said, when you look at the squad and the age of the squad, this is a squad that there's no reason why anyone would want to leave. If anything, there's more reason why other players would want to join, and for Manchester City to be a dominant force in Europe, not just in the Premier League.
Yeah. When it comes to Manchester City, how we see them evolve this season, Robert? Because statistically speaking, they're not pressing quite as much. They seem happier to lay off just a smidgen, not too much, to maybe acclimatise to being a compressed season with more and more fixtures just piling up, particularly when they were still in all 4 competitions.
They've learned how to win games. They've not just got one style. We know they press high. We know they play quickly. They try and win the ball high up the field. But now you see them play their way into games. You see them beat teams 1 and 2-0. And the key factor is that nil. Last season, they were so heavily reliant on Laporte at the back. When Laporte didn't play defensively, they looked weak, they struggled, they conceded chances. They haven't done that this year. I think the invention, well, not the invention, but the way that Pep's used the false 9 this year has been incredible, and the players that have fitted in and out of that role the front three, the front four, if you like, interchanging positions, the problems that that's caused for team. And Gundogan, I think his finding a form, if you like, for want of a better phrase, he's been incredible. He's taken the mantle on from midfield of scoring goals, his assists. And I just think that the whole thing about City was always about going forward, creating chances, scoring goals. And they struggled with that at the start of the season. They've shored up at the back, which is one thing that they didn't have last year. Defensively now, Manchester City look very, very solid, very sound. And they've added the going forward. That was always going to come back. You know, a team like Manchester City, with the players that they've got, they weren't always going to struggle to score goals. That was going to come back at some point and click into place. You combine that with defensive solidity and clean sheets, they're a force to be reckoned with. And like Danny and Jamo have just said about the age of that team, you know, we know that Aguero is going to leave, but you add a Kane, you add a Haaland into that team. They're potentially European champions in a couple of weeks' time. Who isn't going to want to come and play for Manchester City? Pep's put the groundwork in there. I personally think that this is the best squad that Pep's had since he's been there.
Murph?
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I mean, the thing is always about, you know, having the capability of raising your game to whatever the opposition are doing. I thought they managed the season really well. You talk about the difference in points, Jamo. It's a good point. It's only 5 points, but I do think at times, especially because it was won early, they've taken the foot off in a few games recently. You know, with all the competitions they've been in. I think what's crucial for Man City now is making sure that the players they've got stay happy and content. You know, there was not so long ago, I was talking about, you know, Bernardo Silva. He hadn't, I think up until the beginning of the season, well, especially last season, he wasn't used as much. People were talking about Foden maybe going out on loan. People talking about, you know, is Fernandinho done? Now Rodri's come in and playing at centre-back too much. But keeping that squad happy and content together is the key, and then adding the bits Robbo's talking about. I mean, why would you want to leave? You're right, it's a good point. But there are players who do get sick of not playing. And Pep at the moment seems to have that lovely, like managing them so well, they're all happy and they're all smiling, which is easier when you're staying in all competitions. But keeping what you've got and making sure they're happy. I mean, someone like Jesus, who I think is a fabulous number 2 striker, if you like, to come in with his energy and his work ethic and his quality, but when's he going to knock on the door? How long is it going to be before the likes of, you know, Cancelo's found himself out of the team, who had a great for 2/3 of the season? You know, it's managing your squad, and at the moment he's got that right, but we'll see how that progresses over the next season, because it's hard to keep that many superstars happy.
Adam, there is one thing which is just in sort of following on from Danny said there. Man City have played all bar one possible games this season, and that was the FA Cup final. They've played in every other available game. So if you're in a squad which is going to essentially fulfil your fixture list, then you always know there's a chance to play. And you're right, Dan. I mean, if you look at a game where Scott Carson's playing, you know, they lose a game where essentially he can afford to make as many changes as he wants. But from that point of balance, if you're involved in competitions, there's always a chance for your squad to be utilised to its maximum potential.